Everyone. This screencast is just going to go over Module 6 Process Book for Project 2. So this is our last week on Project 2, and we are going to be wrapping up the business cards, and the process book this week gets kind of technical. We're kind of moving out of focusing on design and looking at production techniques now. So I'm going to try and go over the different steps and hopefully clear up any misunderstandings about print production, bleeds, spot color versus process color, things like that. So here we go. So if we dive on in, the first step is to do some color variations. So this page will be the one that you post on the discussion board this week to get feedback from your peers. So this page, at this point from last week, you should have chosen your favorite business card. You should have the final one, have it all the other variations are put behind us, and we have one card now that we're working with. And now with that one card, we will be making two variations in color, two different colors. So as it says here, color is one of the greatest tools in Designer Toolbox. Create 4 different color variations of the same business card design. You should use a total of 3 colors per card. Okay, so it wants 4 color variations. And let's see, this part kind of confused me a little bit, so it might be confusing for you too. So when it says 4 color variations, I think that means 1 design A front, design A back. That's like 1, 2. And then design B front, design B back is 1, 2. So I'll show you an example in a second. So you're just doing this page once. You don't duplicate this page and do 4. You just do this once. Hopefully that makes sense. So you're going to have a color variation for sorry, it cut out there for a second. You're going to have a color variation for, it's the same design, same look. Design A is 1 color, design B is 1 color. And as it says here, 4 different color variations based on the same business card. You should use a total of 3 colors per card. So they give you slots here. Right now it's just filled in with the standard CMY, cyan, magenta, yellow, but these are where your colors will go, and you'll have 3, and it notes that the paper color does not count as one of the colors. So if you're thinking of this in real life, if you have a piece of paper and the paper's blue and then you print on it with yellow, pink, and orange ink, the blue paper is not an ink color, it's the actual physical color of the paper, so that doesn't count as one of the colors. And also black doesn't count as one of the colors. So let's look at this over in the process book and hopefully clear up some misunderstandings. So this is what it'll look like when you fill in the page. So here's just a business card I threw together really fast to kind of show you. So you can see it's the same card, but 2 different color schemes going on here. I have design A front and back, design B front and back. Now in the book it gives you 2 pages. One has a horizontal layout for the business card and the other is a vertical. Just depending on what kind of card yours is, you can get rid of the other page. So because mine is a horizontal card, I'm just going to delete this page from my book. I don't need it. Okay, so as we can see here, this first one kind of has a blue color scheme, and I've chosen these 3 colors are the ink colors. So you can see there is a background color, but that is a paper color, so that doesn't count as an ink color. And this little black star, the black does not count as a color either. So I just have kind of this turquoisey, darker blue, and this like pea green color. So it wants you to list out the color's CMYK formula. So in design, CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, black. I said that kind of backwards there. The black is represented by a K. So what this means, process colors are when you go to print and you have an inkjet or a toner printer, maybe like you have at home, it layers these 4 colors on top of each other to produce any color in the rainbow. So it layers cyan, magenta, yellow, black to produce all sorts of different colors. So when you're specifying colors on a business card or any kind of printing and design, you need to give them the color formula, and that will allow whoever's printing this to reproduce exactly the color you see on your screen. So to find out the formula, it's really easy. You just select the color. You could select it anywhere. And then you're going to come over here to where it shows this swatch. Double click on it. Brings up this window. And right here it shows you, here's the RGB formula, the LAB formula, the lab formula, and here's the CMYK formula. So these are the numbers you want. So 38% cyan, 0% magenta, 27% yellow, 0% black. So I just noted these numbers, 38, 0, 27, 0, and then recorded them right over here. And I did that for all three colors. So now whoever prints this has the exact formulas they need. I did that for this one as well. So that is what you're going to do on this color variation page. Okay, let's jump back over to our instructions here. Okay, so we've recorded the CMYK colors. We've shown our variations for our coloring in our business card. We're going to delete this page because we don't have a vertical business card. Okay, now presentation, business card style guide. So on this page, we talked about how when you are in the real world wanting to print something, you need to be able to tell people specifications so they can replicate it on their machines and printers and presses. So that is what a style guide is for. So this style guide will show them the colors and all of the fonts needed and the sizing. So if they're opening this up in their Illustrator or InDesign and they need to make a change, they know exactly what fonts they need and what size they should be. So on this page, you are going to change your process colors to spot colors. I'll explain that in a minute. And then document the specifications of your typography. Okay, so let's go back over to here. So on this page, in the book, it was kind of weird. It shows, I'll show you back over here. It looks like this when you first pull it up. There's a vertical and a horizontal. Again, if you're doing a horizontal card, just use 2 horizontal formats. If it's a vertical, use 2 vertical formats. So I just had to edit that a little bit to show the 2 horizontal ones. Okay, so now here's what we're going to want to pay attention to is over here. So on our last page, we looked at the CMYK formula, remember? Now we're going to show our colors what they look like as spot colors. Okay, so we talked about how CMYK layers cyan, magenta, yellow, black to produce a color. Spot colors are another way to print, and it's a process called offset lithography, which is like a really fancy way of saying that instead of mixing the colors like that and layering them, you actually are mixing the ink first, and so instead of layering colors in production, it's just one solid ink color to begin with. It's like if you pulled out a bucket of that ink color. You're not doing any layering, it's just already that color to begin with. So in the process book here, it specified that it wants you to show the colors as CMYK on this first page, but then in the style guide it wants you to change them to spot colors. I think the class is just trying to get you to understand the different ways of printing and the different ways of showing color formulas within the design programs. So I'll show you how to do that. It's not hard. Oops. So up here I kind of copied my colors. I just took these 3, copied them, brought them down here. And now I'll show you on this last one. So right now we see that this peach color is in the CMYK formula, but I want to convert it to a spot color. Now maybe you've heard of Pantone colors before. Basically Pantone colors are spot colors. Pantone is the brand name. So Pantone produces thousands of these. You could think of them as like little buckets of ink, and every ink color you can imagine, and it's already mixed and it's already that color, and they assign them a name which looks something like red 032 or reflex blue or something along those lines. So we want to convert this formula into one of these singular Pantone colors. So here is how you do that. So I will select this peach color. Now with it selected, I come over to my swatch panel. If your swatch panel is not already open, you could just go Window, Color, Swatches, and it will bring this up. So within the swatch panel, I'm going to click over here, and I'm going to say I want a new color swatch. Now, it will bring up this window, So right now, see it's selected color type process color, which is CMYK, but I don't want that. I want a spot color. So I select spot, and now I transfer from CMYK, scroll down till you find Pantone solid coated. I'm going to select that, and it brings up this whole library. So remember I was talking about how Pantone produces, just think of them as like buckets and buckets of every color ink you can imagine. Well, here they all are. So there's tons and tons and tons of them. So you're going to kind of scroll through and find one that matches your color that you've selected as close as possible. It might never be an exact match because there's a finite number of Pantone swatches, but you're going to do your best to scroll through and select one that matches it. So I'm not going to take all the time right now, but that one looks pretty close. So I'm going to select this Pantone 502C and then hit OK. So that's the formula, the Pantone number I need, Pantone 502C. So I hit OK. I change this to say Pantone 502C. Okay, and now I have my 3 spot colors, and make sure that that is now a spot color, and make sure that on here you've also changed this to be no longer a CMYK, but we can use a little eyedropper and make it that Pantone spot color we chose. Okay, so once you've done that for all your colors on this page, made them all spot colors, you will be done with the color section, and now just make sure you fill out down here the type specifications. So it breaks it down by, so what, it asks for like name, title, contact information, so each one might have a different font, or maybe they're the same font family but different styles. So my name on the card is it's in Trade Gothic, and it's Trade Gothic Bold, and it's size 27. My title, the Professor of Graphic Design, is Trade Gothic Condensed, size 12. My contact information is Trade Gothic Roman, size, and then this just means 8 to 10, somewhere in between there. So if you want it to be variable, you can use a little fraction like that. Okay, so now that that is all specified, this page is your style guide. That looks good. You'll do a digital mock-up just like we did in our last project. I will try and attach some mock-ups to the same announcement as this screencast will be in, or feel free to look online and find your own mock-up. Just keep it simple, keep it neat, just something to help on your Behance page show what your business card would look like if you were to print it in the real world. Do a little caption over here. Okay, the last page is this page called Press Ready. So we've talked about how different inks print in the real world, and now this is more of that printing press production type of exercise. So this page is in the zip file for this week. This is an Illustrator page. So let's jump over to Illustrator and talk about this. Okay, so when you take something to press, when you're going to print something, you need to set up the page before you print it. You can't just send them a PDF and say, oh, well, here's my design, have it printed. You kind of need to do the footwork to make sure that your design is printed as accurately as possible and you get what you're expecting. So this is the file they give you. These little marks here are called, these are like the crop marks. This is where it will be cut when a machine goes through, and it will look for these marks and it will cut right along those lines. This outer line is called the bleed mark, and the inner line is called the trim mark. So the trim mark is where it actually gets cut. The bleed mark here is important because when you're printing things in large quantities obviously, and cutting them, there needs to be room for error, and that's basically what the bleed is. It's this little 1/4 of an inch or so area that gives the machines a little bit room for error. So if they trim a little past it, it won't cut off the design, it will still have color on it. So you just basically need to extend your design a little bit past what you initially did to account for this bleed mark. So here's what the page will look like. When you drop in your things, it will look like this. So we want to specify that on this 8.5 by 11 page, we would like 2 business cards printed per page. So you put your fronts over here, the backs over there, and it will look like this. And you can just plop your things right on top of these blue lines and then delete these kind of little guide notes. So when it looks like that, you will bring it back over into InDesign and stick it on this page, replacing this template here. Let's go back over here. On the website, it talks about, okay, so it talks about trim marks, bleed marks. Everything I'm saying in this video is on this page too, so you can read it if that's helpful. It talks about printing color separations. I think this part is just for your own knowledge. Since this is an online class, we're not doing any actual printing. It's not required of you to print out and turn something in. So, and if you don't have a printer, that's okay. Don't feel like you need to do this, but if you wanted to, I can just run through really fast. You can do color separations like we talked about, how you print the different layers of color. You could do that on your own printer if you wanted. So just kind of as a information for yourself, for your own enrichment. If you wanted to do this at home and print the color separations to just see what happens, you can go to File, Print, and in this print dialog box you would select all printing marks. That makes sure that you get the trim marks, the bleed marks, that will all be there. And then under Output, right now I have it set to my printer. I'm just going to set it to PostScript. That just kind of is the generic any printer. You change it from composite to separations. And so now it shows you it will print 4 pages, one with just the cyan, the magenta, the yellow, the black, to show you what the different color separations look like. So if you actually want to print that, you could go ahead and print, but you don't need to for this class. That's just kind of extra information. So again, this information here is just more extra. Like it says, pre-press is an art unto itself. So we get to spend a whole nother class on how to get your files print ready, but I think we've gone over everything you need for the process book this week. Again, when you go to submit your final project number 2, it will be a Behance post that will have your Photoshop mockup, and it wants the style guide page, which was this page right here. It would like that included in your Behance post. So make sure you do the Photoshop mockup and the style guide. And I noticed in our last project, some people kind of left off a explanation in their Behance post. So don't just post the image. Post, a little paragraph about what was this project about, what were the specifications, how do you feel it turned out, things like that. Just remember it's a professional page, so just kind of keep it high level and interesting, and you don't need to be too tricky with it, just a description of what this project was about. You can tag the post so that other people will be able to find it when they search, and I think you guys already are pretty pro and know how to do these things. The drawing letters, type journal, and the Ponder module page. Same as always. So hopefully that didn't confuse you more and that was helpful to you about what you need to do this week for the process book and to turn in your final project 2 business card. Yes, good luck, and let me know if you need anything else.